Have you ever imagined a lion so fierce that even the winds of the African bush seem to whisper his name in fear? In the heart of the Sabi Sands, where the sun scorches the savanna like a living ember, Mr. T was born, one of the most feared lions in history. He wasn't just a predator. He was a force of nature, a king who wrote his legacy with claws and roars. But listen, behind all that brutality, there were bonds of loyalty, moments of grief, and a fight for survival that'll make you rethink what it means to be strong. Want to know how a lion earned the nickname Satan and still touched the hearts of those who knew him? Then hold on tight, because this story is one that grabs you and doesn't let go. The Mapogo coalition, which Mr. T was part of, ruled like an unstoppable storm, and the sound of their roars echoing at night was like a drumbeat heralding chaos. But what made Mr. T so special and so feared wasn't just his strength. He lived deep alliances, faced betrayals that cut like a knife, and carried scars that told more than any spoken tale. Ever felt an emptiness that only a true friend can fill? Mr. T knew that, and his journey with Kinky Tail, his soul brother, is living proof. But in the wild, even the strongest bonds can be shattered. And when that happened, well, let's just say what came next changed everything. If you love stories that mix courage, tragedy, and a touch of mystery, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. We're diving into Mr. T's life, from his days of brutal domination to the end of an era that still echoes across the savannah. Take a deep breath and come with me, because what this lion faced in the first chapter of his life will leave you speechless. In the heart of the Sabi Sands, where heat rises from the ground like a dancing mist, the Mapogo coalition reigned like thunder that needs no explanation. 6 lions, each more imposing than the last, but Mr. T, he was the fire at the storm's core. Ever seen an animal that seems to carry the weight of a greater destiny? That was Mr. T, with eyes that sliced like blades and a roar that made the ground shake as if the savannah itself obeyed him. He didn't just hunt, he dominated, and his fame spread as fast as the fear he inspired. But listen, it wasn't all brute force. There was something almost otherworldly in how he commanded. The Mapogo coalition, named after a local legend, showed no mercy. They claimed territories like it was second nature, and the sound of prey, fleeing in panic, was the soundtrack of the nights. Mr. T, though, took it to another level. He earned the nickname Satan after an act that shocked even the most seasoned guides. He killed the cubs of his own brothers. Can you believe that kind of ferocity? It wasn't blind cruelty, but a cold strategy to ensure only his lineage survived. As the wind carried the metallic scent of blood, Mr. T patrolled the territory, muscles taut, like a king who knows the throne is never safe. Who hasn't felt the weight of a choice that changes everything? But it wasn't all brutality. Mr. T had his moments of calm, almost like the universe gave him a breather. Once, guides saw him lying under an acacia, his tail lazily thumping the dust as he gazed at the horizon. For a moment, he was just a lion, not a legend. Ever stop to think how even the strongest carry a vulnerable side? That duality in him, the ruthless king and the animal who feels, made everyone wonder, what else did this lion hold in his heart? If you're loving this story, hit that like and subscribe to dive deeper into Mr. T's saga. Because listen, a shadow was starting to form among the Mapogo themselves, and the brothers' loyalty would soon be tested. In the vastness of the Sabi Sands, where the hum of cicadas lulls the warm nights, Mr. T found something his brute strength couldn't buy: a true brother. Among the 5 lions of the Mapogo coalition, Kinky Tail was the one who walked beside him, as if they'd been born under the same star. Ever had someone who gets you without a single word? That's how it was with them. Kinky, with his crooked tail that seemed to scribble in the air, had a spark that balanced Mr. T's ferocity. Together, they were unstoppable, and the sound of their synchronized roars rang out like a warning. This territory is ours. But don't think it was all strength and power. There was a lightness between them, almost comical. Once Kinky Tail tried to steal a piece of meat from Mr. T, only to get a playful swat that sent him tumbling in the dust. Can you picture these? Two giants acting like cubs? It was like, away from the world's eyes, they were just brothers enjoying the day. The scent of dry grass hung in the air as they rested, and for a moment, the savannah felt at peace. But deep down, Mr. T knew harmony never lasts. Don't you think sometimes the universe gives you those calm moments just to brace you for what's coming? And then, the inevitable happened. Tensions among the Mapogo started to crack the group like a stone splitting under the heat. Mr. T and Kinky Tail chose to break away from the others, co-ruling the eastern sector of the Sabi Sands with a strategy that blended courage and cunning. They patrolled under the orange glow of the sunset, each step deliberate, each roar a pledge of loyalty. If you're hooked on this tale of friendship and power, hit that like and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Because listen, when rivalry erupted within the coalition, Mr. T and Kinky would face a challenge that tested everything they'd built. The savannah never sleeps, and in the Sabi Sands, where the crunch of dry twigs under paws echoes like a warning, the Mapogo coalition began to fracture from within. Mr. T and Kinky Tail already ruled the east, but power has a way of stirring envy, doesn't it? Makulu, another lion in the coalition, was like a shadow growing under the scorching sun, strong, proud, and ready to challenge. Ever felt the tension of a fight that's about to explode? That's exactly how it was, with roars exchanged from a distance, each one deeper, like drums heralding war. Mr. T, with his black mane swaying in the breeze, wasn't one to back down, but even he knew this fight would be different. When the clash came, it was brutal. Under a sky stained red, as if the universe itself were holding its breath, Mr. T and Makulu collided with the force of two titans. Claws tore, teeth flashed, and the smell of dust mixed with blood filled the air. Kinky Tail fought alongside Mr. T, but Makulu was relentless, his eyes burning with a fury that felt personal. Know those moments when you feel everything could change in a blink? Mr. T took a blow that made him stagger, but with a roar that seemed to rip the earth, he struck back. The victory came at a cost, though. The coalition was broken, and Mr. T and Kinky Tail had to split off, forming their own faction. They retreated to the east, licking their wounds under the silver glow of the moon. Mr. T, with scratches marking his body like maps of battles, seemed to carry a weight beyond the physical. It was as if he knew each fight brought him closer to something bigger or darker. Close your eyes for a second and feel it. A lion king, but with a heart heavy with uncertainty. Their loyalty to each other kept them strong, but the horizon was already trembling with new threats. How would they face younger, fiercer rivals lurking in the shadows? The Sabi Sands in 2010 was a cauldron of tension, with the air heavy like the silence before a storm. Mr. T and Kinky Tail, now lords of the East, walked with the confidence of kings, but the savannah has a cruel way of reminding you that no one rules forever. Ever felt that chill when something new and dangerous appears on the horizon? That's how the Majingilane arrived. 5 young lions, their manes gleaming like gold under the blazing sun, with a hunger for power that made the ground seem to quake. Mr. T, with a scar on his shoulder shining like a medal, faced the challenge, with a roar that sliced through the wind. The first battle was a chaos of claws and dust. The sound of snarls mixed with the crack of bones echoed like a savage symphony. Mr. T and Kinky Tail fought as if the fate of the world depended on it, and in a surge of raw power, they managed to take down one of the Majingilane. But listen, victory came at a steep price. Mr. T emerged with a deep gash in his paw, and Kinky Tail limped, his crooked tail now swaying slower. Know when you win but feel like you've lost a piece of yourself? That's how they returned to the shade of a fig tree, the scent of sweat and blood still clinging to their fur. Pause for a moment and picture them, exhausted but with eyes still, burning with resolve. The Majingilane, though, weren't ones to give up. They came back, more aggressive, more organized, as if the savannah had conspired against the brothers. Mr. T roared into the night, as if calling the universe for help. But the only answer was the silence of predators lurking. Their loyalty to each other was what kept them standing. But you can feel the weight of it, can't you? Like two warriors knowing the next fight might be their last. And when darkness brought an unexpected attack, Kinky Tail's fate hung by a thread. Night in the Sabi Sands fell like a veil, and the silence among the bushes was so thick it seemed to swallow even heartbeats. Mr. T and Kinky Tail, scarred from battles with the Majingilane, patrolled with heavy steps, the sound of their paws, crushing dry leaves a reminder of life's fragility. Ever felt something bad coming but couldn't stop it? Kinky Tail, his crooked tail now barely moving, seemed slower, as if he sensed the end. Mr. T, ever the protector, kept his eyes sharp, but even a king can be caught off guard. The Majingilane struck like shadows, their roars erupting like thunder. Kinky Tail, isolated for a moment, faced three of them alone. The air filled with the sharp smell of fear and fury as claws tore flesh and the ground turned red. Mr. T ran, his roar tearing through the darkness, but he arrived too late. Kinky Tail lay still, his body marked by wounds that told a story of bravery and tragedy. Can you imagine Mr. T's pain? He stood there frozen as if time had stopped. Ever lost someone who was part of you? It was like Mr. T's soul was torn apart with Kinky. Close your eyes and feel that emptiness. A lion so strong, yet with a broken heart. But the savannah doesn't wait for grief. Mr. T, with new and old scars gleaming under the starlight, roared for days, a sound that seemed to plead with the heavens for justice. It was as if the universe heard but didn't answer. The loyalty that bound him to Kinky Tail now fueled a flame of vengeance, burning brighter than ever. But he was alone, and the Majingilane still prowled. How would a wounded lion face a world that forgives no weakness? The Sabi Sands dawned under a thin mist, as if the savannah itself wept in silence. Mr. T, now a lone lion, wandered with the weight of grief, his steps echoing on the damp soil like a slow drum. The void left by Kinky Tail was tangible. Ever felt a silence that screams louder than any sound? His roars, once commanding respect, now carried raw pain, echoing through. The hills as a lament even the stars seemed to hear. Mr. T was no longer just a king. He was a wounded warrior, with the scent of cold dew clinging to his fur, searching for a reason to go on. But pain has a way of turning into fuel. At a dawn painted orange, Mr. T found the Salala, a group of lions who, like him, knew the taste of loss. Joining them was like lighting a fire on a freezing night. It didn't erase the pain, but it gave warmth to keep going. Can you imagine what was going through his head? A lion who'd lost everything but still had claws and a heart that refused to quit. Together they faced the Majingilane in calculated ambushes, moving like shadows among thorny bushes. Each attack was a cry for vengeance, but also a reminder. Mr. T bore new scars, and time wasn't on his side. The clashes were brutal, the sound of roars mingling with the snap of dry twigs filling the air. Mr. T fought with a fury that seemed to defy fate, but the Majingilane were young, relentless. Each skirmish left him more battered, and the savannah seemed to whisper that the end was near. Pause for a second and picture it. A lion, alone against the world, but with a flame that wouldn't die. Yet as he prepared for the next battle, a reunion with his old Mapogo brothers was about to change everything. The Sabi Sands seemed to hold its breath, with the wind carrying the earthy scent of distant rain. Mr. T, now more marked by scars than by the once majestic mane, found the remaining Mapogo brothers in the west, as if fate had decided to grant one last chance. Ever return to a place that changed you forever? That's how it was for him. A reunion that mixed relief with a pang in the chest. The coalition, though smaller, still carried that old fire, and the sound of their roars together was like an echo of a glorious past, reverberating through the golden hills. But the old Satan hadn't lost his edge. In an attack that stunned even the guides, he led a brutal campaign, slaughtering rivals' cubs, and yes, even those of his own brothers. Can you grasp a lion who lives between loyalty and cruelty? It was the law of the savannah, cold as the dew dripping from leaves at dawn, but also a reminder of the ferocity that made him legendary. He patrolled the territory with steady steps, his tail thumping like a metronome, as the Mapogo reinforced their dominance. Know those moments when you feel someone's fighting for more than just survival? Mr. T seemed determined to etch his name into eternity, but time is a relentless hunter. The Mapogo were older and new rivals lurked, their hungry eyes glinting in the twilight. Each clash was more exhausting, each roar a bit hoarser. Picture this for a moment. A king who knows the end is near but refuses to fall without a fight. Mr. T pressed on, driven by something greater, perhaps pride, perhaps legacy. But as the Selati began to close in, the question hung in the air. How long could he defy the inevitable? The Sabi sands seemed to know an era was ending, with the gray sky weighing like a curtain about to fall. Mr. T, now a veteran covered in scars, moved with the resolve of one who knows no surrender. But the weariness in his eyes told another story. Ever seen someone fight even knowing the end is close? The Mapogo coalition, diminished and aged, still roared with pride, the sound echoing like distant thunder across the plains. But the Selati, young and ruthless, prowled with the scent of blood in the air, their steps light as whispers of a deadly promise. The final attack came in a cold pre-dawn, when mist hugged the ground like a veil of mourning. The Selati descended on Mr. T and the Mapogo with a fury that seemed to defy the savannah's laws. Claws slashed, roars mingled with the crack of bones, and Mr. T fought with the strength of a lion carrying the weight of a legacy. But this time, fate didn't yield. A blow paralyzed him and he fell, his body heavy against the damp earth. Can you feel the silence that followed? It was as if the savannah itself held its breath, marking the end of a king. Mr. T, the feared Satan, was gone, but his eyes, even in that final moment, seemed to say, "I lived as a lion." The Mapogo's legacy, though, didn't die there. Every roar, every battle, every scar told a story of power, loyalty, and tragedy that still echoes in the Sabi sands. Pause for a moment and reflect. Isn't it incredible how an animal can teach so much about courage and sacrifice? Mr. T faced the world with claws and heart, and his story reminds us that even the strongest fall, but never without leaving a mark. And now, as the sun sets on the savannah, a new generation begins to roar, and so with Mr. T's final roar echoing through the Sabi sands, an era came to an end. But listen, this lion's story isn't just about battles or brutality. It's about what it means to fight for what matters, even when the world seems against you. Ever stop to think about what you leave behind when it's all over? Mr. T, with his scars, his loyalty to Kinky Tail, and his refusal to give in, teaches us that true strength comes from the heart, not just the claws. The scent of the savannah still carries his name, as if the wind refuses to forget a king who lived so fiercely. This journey through the Sabi sands, between roars and silences, shows how life, whether for a lion or any of us, is made of highs and lows. Mr. T faced betrayals, lost those he loved but never stopped roaring. Isn't it inspiring how an animal can mirror so much of our own soul? His story is a reminder. Live with courage, love with loyalty, and leave your mark, even if the end is inevitable. If this tale touched your heart, hit that like and subscribe for more stories that'll move you. And hey, ever had an animal that changed your life? Share it in the comments. We'd love to hear. If Mr. T's saga stirred something in you, the next video YouTube suggests will take you on another wild adventure that'll warm your heart. Don't miss it. The savannah never stops teaching, and neither do we. Until next time, may your roars always echo loud.